Producer Frank Pace, and retired New York City firefighter, 9/11 first responder, and Vietnam vet, Billy O'Connor. Brought to you by We Can Coffee Company, manufacturer of freshly roasted premium coffee blends delivered directly to your door. This week's guest, Cincinnati Reds Hall of Fame pitcher and two-time 20-game winner, Jim Maloney.
My brother Frank, how are you today, pal? How's everything?
It's October. Do you believe it? Where's this year going?
Man, the years are going faster. You know, they keep going faster. You keep getting older, they go quicker. You know, less you have of anything, the more valuable it is.
I know. I looked in the mirror this morning. I said, "Who the fuck are you?" I mean, I almost didn't. I scared myself.
I was going out with a girl. She came over to my house one time, and I had a picture of me. I guess I was about 40 with my son in my lap. He was about 5. And she said to me, "Is that you in the picture?" And I was like, "What are you talking about? I still look like that." Of course, that's me. That's me, yeah. It's amazing. Yeah. Do you still visualize yourself as young?
Of course.
Yeah, right?
Of course. I visualize myself as young. I move like I'm old.
Your mind says you're 30 and your body says you're full of shit.
Yeah, that's exactly correct. Exactly correct. We were talking about, we were looking at a picture of my granddaughter Frankie the other day from about 4 months or so ago. She's changed so much in 4 months. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, they change so dramatically. But you know what? I mean, obviously children, they change so dramatically from year to year. But when I got to about 60 is when I feel like I stepped off the cliff. Like it seemed like it just all caught up to me.
Yeah.
Like in the next 10 years, it seemed like it really went downhill fast. You know, I was on an elevator heading to the bottom.
Well, I only got 30 more years to go. So.
Yeah. I wish I could cut that deal with you, Connor. That's a hell of a deal. You got 30 years to live.
Our guest today will be Jim Maloney.
Wow.
Fireballing right-hander for the Cincinnati Reds Hall of Famer during the 60s.
There were some pitchers around in the 60s, but that's a real.
And he was one of them. A career cut short by an injury, or else he would have been a definite member of Cooperstown. So we'll have Jim.
I'm surprised he's still not in, actually. I mean, the numbers he put up.
No, he's not in. He didn't do it long enough. He just only did it for 10 years. But we'll have Jim on in a little later.
That's great. I can't wait to interview him. It's going to be a lot of fun.
So what are we going to talk about?
I don't know. What do you want to talk about?
Hey, Derek.
Yeah.
Why did you put up a picture of Ron Jeremy?
Is that what you want to talk about, Ron Jeremy?
Well, let me read this. Adult film star Ron Jeremy has been indicted on more than 30 sexual assault counts involving 21 alleged victims over the last 2 decades, according to legal documents obtained by USA Today. Jeremy pleaded not guilty to 12 counts of forcible rape, 7 counts of forcible oral copulation, 6 counts of sexual battery by restraint, 4 counts of sexual...
It looks like an innocent man, Frank. This is a frame-up.
4 counts of sexual penetration by a foreign object. I can only imagine. I only can imagine what those are.
Foreign objects.
2 counts of sexual penetration on an unconscious or asleep person, and 1 count each of a lewd act upon a child under the age of 14 or 15, use by soluble force and assault with intent to commit rape.
Jesus. It's funny, but it ain't funny. That's awful.
It's funny. I hope they throw him in jail because you know what's going to happen to him in jail. He's going to get his ass reamed, and I don't mean literally. I mean literally. I do mean literally.
I don't get it.
I mean, this was the biggest sex star. This was the biggest porn
well,
star.
Well, now I really don't get it.
Biggest porn star of our lifetime.
Well, let me ask you something. All of these different counts.
Take that picture down.
Why did it take so long for them to catch up with all of those counts? You'd think they'd be charging him as it went along, right? Well, all of a sudden they come in with all these counts at one shot. I mean, the investigation was pending that long. This guy has to be off the streets, obviously,
Well, with our legal system.
That's true. Frank, I'm Irish. So being Irish, the Catholic Church has us so screwed up, we don't even understand rape.
Oh.
Like, we find it difficult enough to have sex when both parties are willing. We don't get rape. I don't get it.
Oh, yeah. You're Irish. I'm Italian. It's called the Roman Catholic Church.
That's true. That's true. So you've been befuddled by those bastards as well.
Indeed, I have.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing. We don't even understand rape. I like the idea that you're Italian. You know, it's the Italians. What I like about the Italians, they're the only people that can go to a hospital and see a friend of theirs that might be dying, and they look at the room number to play the number on their way out the door. What was his room number? 312. Well, you got to play that number.
So speaking of numbers, why don't you tell me a little?
Wait, before we do that,
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt, but
No, please.
I'm at the 6th season of The Sopranos. Speaking of Italians,
Okay.
okay. Do you know? I failed to look this up, but do you know why there's like 17 episodes, 20 episodes in season 6? Did you know? Are you aware of that? Like the previous seasons, there were normal 13, 12, 10, whatever. This particular one, it goes to like 22.
They probably combined 2 seasons.
Okay.
They
Oh,
just
that's a simple enough answer.
felt like keep it going.
Yeah. Okay.
But there's no rhyme or reason to that. You know, if they figured they wanted to do 11 episodes, they'll do 11 episodes. If they want to do 17, they'll do 17 in the season. If they want to do 4, they'll do 4 in the season.
Okay.
Who produced that? David Chase, right?
Yeah.
I heard.
And HBO.
I had read that the way they got Stevie Van Zandt to play Silvio.
Yep.
Stephen Van Zandt was giving out an award. Apparently, David Chase is a big groupie. Like he loves music. He wanted to be a drummer or something. Right. He was that's his side thing. He likes to be music. And he was at this award show. It wasn't a big award show, but Van Zandt was giving out an award, and for a goof, he put on that rug.
Right.
That thick rug looks like it's weaved out of somebody's back hair. By the way.
Well, you've never seen it. You've never seen him without that turban.
No.
On.
Right. He always has the do rag, right? Or he had that rug.
Right.
And he put on like a pinstripe suit and
Right.
came out as a gag,
right,
as a wise guy to give the award. And David Chase saw him, and that was his moment. And
Wow.
said, why not? That's Silvio.
Wow.
Which is pretty cool. Like, again, we always talk about luck.
Luck, right spot in the right place.
Yeah, and not how many people see you, just the right person seeing you at the right time.
Yes, but also you can be lucky, but you have to be prepared. And Stephen was prepared as an actor.
Yeah, the door opened and he walked in. But, I mean, it wasn't a stretch for him to play an Italian wise guy, just like it wasn't a stretch for Pesci. You know, I mean, Pesci was a runner.
Pesci was that guy.
He was a runner for a wise guy. I knew in the Bronx. You know, he was a big bookie. He was a runner for him. You know, so it wasn't really a stretch.
He was
not
also,
taking anything
he
away.
was also Pesci was also a pin setter for Frankie Valli.
And he was a singer as well. He said,
Well,
no, he was. He was a singer. I mean, he used to strum the guitar in Michaels. You know, he was a singer.
I got another question along these lines. So since you're the producer of the group, who do you think who are the top, let's say, 3 overrated actors of all time?
oh shit,
That's a tough
Schwimmer.
That was too easy.
Schwimmer, number 1.
I can't. You know, I can't.
I think there's so many of them.
That guy that was what the hell's his name? I never remember his
What's
name.
the
'cause
movie?
I can't stand him. He was in like the singing Elvises or whatever, flying Elvises. He was in
Nick
yeah,
Cage.
Nick
Nick
Cage.
Cage.
I can't stick that guy. Of course,
he's-
it's all subjective.
For a long time, I didn't like Paul Giamatti.
Really?
I think he's good. Really.
I hated him in everything he did until Billions.
Until Billions. Huh?
Until Billions.
Yep.
Wow.
And I thought,
You just felt like he's like overacting.
yes,
Okay.
and or just I thought he was too pretentious,
Yeah.
too condescending,
Yeah.
a lot of those things. And again, I could say Jason Alexander,
I think he's good. I think Jason.
but I
Alexander-
think he was so good in that part. That's the reason I hated him in that part
Oh,
on
okay.
Seinfeld,
Right.
rather than. But you know, for years, I
who's the guy who starred in The Matrix?
Keanu Reeves.
Keanu Reeves.
I think that guy is totally emotionless. I don't get him at all.
Yeah, but he's good in those.
Really?
What is the trilogy he's just done?
Dang it! Just John.
John Wick.
John Wick.
John Wick 1, 2, and 3.
He's good in that.
1, 2, and 3.
He's good in that.
He's great.
See,
in
I
that.
never watch him because to me, like the old Dorothy Parker line, he ran the gamut of emotions from A to B. You know, he seems emotionless to me. He's got nothing, and I can't stand Nicolas Cage at all. I don't. Anything if he's in, I don't watch it. That's simple. I just won't watch it.
But Nicolas Cage is from a famous family.
Yeah.
Coppola family.
Francis
Oh, okay,
Ford
well,
Coppola. Yeah.
yeah.
He's his nephew, right?
I say Coppola, you say Coppola.
You say Coppola,
And
I say
Coppola.
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 Let's
Coppola.
call the whole thing off. Somebody ought to write that song down.
They
That's
oughta.
pretty good.
Well, which is it? Is it Coppola or
I think it's Coppola,
Coppola?
Coppola.
but it could be. It's,
Could be a
it's,
Coppola.
it's not Coppola.
Let's have a cuppa.
It's not
Francis
Coppola.
Ford Coppola, I always say. Yeah, it's Coppola.
Coppola sounds right.
Okay, Francis Ford Coppola.
All right, we got it.
And,
Speaking of emotions, we've
that's
got.
a very emotional book.
Could you hold up to your oath? We've got two
Not as emotional.
two books out now. Not to be confused with If These Lips Could Talk would be the third,
That's correct.
and the fourth book
Confessions
would
of a
be
Bronx Bookie.
Confessions of a Bronx Bookie. All are available. But let me read what one person is saying about this book, Combustible, which is available on a mick.books or Amazon.com. So Mary McNamara, a fellow Irish American and Pulitzer Prize winning critic for the LA Times, said, in the fast-paced, vivid story of faith and fire, sin and salvation, an Irish-American New York City firefighter faces all the demons of his past and his profession, with a kind of described at bar detail, syncopated dialogue, and dark humor that would make Sam Spade proud. I wish she had written this book.
So do I. No wonder she's a Pulitzer Prize winner.
Connor Cullen is the rare, hard-bitten hero who is actually seeking a force greater than himself and hoping to actually find it, even among the ruins of one of this country's greatest tragedies. So
That's a hell of a review
That's a hell of a review.
from a Pulitzer Prize winner.
And, it's been almost a month now since 9/11, and the book's really doing well, and I encourage everybody to pick up a copy of
Combustible. It's
Who's it by?
I'm sorry?
Who's it by?
Billy O'Connor and this guy Frank Pace.
Never heard of him.
I can't pronounce his name right. It's a Pace. How do you pronounce those giddy names? I know the end of the vowel. I just can't pronounce it.
What are you holding there?
I'm holding Lamar's Gamble. Now, I'm going to read a quote from one of the readers, one of our critics, not a critic, but an endorsement. And it won't be quite as literate as Miss McNamara, because this guy is not.
It better be Johnny Clams.
It's Johnny Clams. This guy is not a writer, but nevertheless, he's a longtime New York City bookmaker.
And an associate of yours.
And I happen to know John, yeah. And he says, I've been taking action for 40 years. Two things I've learned. No one wins, and if money's involved, nothing's on the level. This book is on the nose. And I'm going to agree with that. But there's money involved, nothing's on the level.
That's the story of Lamar Hunt and his furtive try to buy an NFL franchise and his later founding the American Football League as a response to the NFL not hiring him.
Yes.
Not
and
letting him buy into their club, and how he forced the merger of the two leagues.
And also about the type of people that it took to be those that take that gamble, take the gamble on the new league.
Take the gamble that Lamar took.
Yes.
What did his father say? His father was H.L. Hunt, who was the richest man in the world.
At the time, yes.
Yes. And what did his father say? Are you crazy?
Yeah. You got to be out of your mind.
Are you crazy?
Yeah.
Speaking of that.
Speaking of crazy.
Billy,
how was your anniversary?
Billy, how was your anniversary? Well, that was almost a month ago, but
you were talking about my wife being crazy.
Yeah.
I said to her, I actually remembered it thanks to you because you gave me the prod. Said, hey, it's your anniversary, which was marvelous because I'm hopeless with dates. But I said to her, I says, I was very humble. I gave her the card. And I said, why did you marry me anyway? And she says, because you're funny. I said, I thought it was because I was good in bed. She said, see what I mean? You're hilarious. So it was a double-edged sword, Frank.
Well, how's your Bitcoin coming?
Hey, Cardona. Don't knock Cardona.
Cardona.
You know what? We might turn into a financial advisor show. This could be the thing,
So it's up?
I was telling people about it. It was 96 cents. It's at $3 now.
How many?
Tree. 1, 2, 3. Don't you speak English? Speaks the Queen's English, this guy. I don't know. Tree.
Well,
1, 2, 3. Yeah, $3. Hey, we could turn it. It's better than my football picks, Frank.
You can say that again. So before we bring on Jim Maloney,
Uh-huh.
let's have I want to say a word about our sponsor, Weekend Coffee. It's refreshing to have a sponsor like Weekend Coffee. They recognize the importance of military and first responders. They give a bag of coffee for every 10 they sold to
veterans or first
veterans
responders.
and first responders.
And it's a freebie. Every 10 they kick one back, which
Yes.
is really nice. It's like the old days in the saloons. Every 3 you get a buyback. They give you a buyback, and they give it to the right people.
Yep.
So, yeah, I'm proud to endorse Weekend Coffee. I think it's,
And we're proud that they endorse us.
yes, and it's a good product.
It's when we start out, you have no idea if you're going to attract people or who's going to be interested in your product. So it's nice to have somebody interested in us, and Weekend Coffee is that company. So
Yeah, I'm delighted that and their product is good.
Great.
And otherwise, I really wouldn't endorse a product that I didn't participate. I drink,
Speaking of interest, I appreciate that tribute to Weekend Coffee. I have a question that came to mind when you guys were talking about this. How many serious girlfriends do you think you had before you got married?
Oh,
Serious.
How many times have I been in love? In other words, really, that's what you're asking me. Right?
Okay. If you have to define it by being in love, yeah.
Well, I mean, serious girlfriends, I would say, that means being in love. I think I've been lucky enough, and I consider really lucky enough to have been in love like 4 times in my life.
how many times were you faithful in your life?
Never. Until recently. Jenny, if you're listening, until recently. Yeah, I was never faithful.
How many times? Never.
Never.
Except.
And then, you know what? I didn't have to think about that. You notice how that just fled out there? Yeah, I was a rogue. I was a drunk. And when you're a drunk, you don't really think about being faithful.
How many times were you in love, Derek?
Well, we need your answer first.
No.
Me?
How many times were you in love?
I was never in love.
You were never in love.
Only once.
Only once.
Only once.
I'm going to say
that's a safe answer, Jerry.
I'm going to say
No, it's true.
I'm going to say the same thing.
Yeah.
You're only
true.
in love once.
Yeah.
I think I've been lucky enough to been in love 4 times. And that's lucky, I think, and lucky enough that women would put up with me long enough to be in love,
Well, you married the same woman twice, so
yes.
if you were married 4 times,
but that's a drunk's idea of financial planning. Everybody thought I was stupid. He said, "You got married to the same woman again?" I said, "Yeah, but what alimony?" I knew she wasn't going to stick around for long,
let's bring Jim Maloney on.
All right, let's do that. I guess. Yeah, let's bring Jimmy on. Let's talk a little sports.
You bet. So, Derek, can we bring on fireballing Reds Hall of Fame pitcher Jim Maloney? Hey, Jim, how are you?
Frank, what's happening? Good to see you, partner.
You too. There's my partner, Billy O'Connor.
Real honor, Jim. Real honor.
And that's Derek Harris.
Hi, Billy.
Hello.
Hi, Billy.
And that's Derek Harris over here, the third man in the booth, but actually our MVP, because without him, Billy and I couldn't be doing this.
We can't even make a phone call. We're having trouble making phone calls nowadays. Never mind this.
So, Jim, before we start, your email address. What's a mullion? He asks, not knowing the answer to the question.
That's an old baseball term somebody invented. It's not really a word, but it's just when you see a mullion in the stands, that's not a very good-looking person.
It's like a mook.
And then there was also a stone mullion. That was a mullion with a blister on it.
So that's what this interview will be like.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's good.
So, Jim, you were probably one of the greatest athletes ever to come out of Fresno High School. I know that Tom Seaver came out at Fresno High, but he was a pitcher only. And Dick Selma, I believe, came out of Fresno High School, but he was a pitcher only. You were a shortstop, and you hit 500 your senior year, and you weren't a pitcher. How'd you become a pitcher?
Well, Frank, I playing the shortstop. I always had a good arm.
No kidding.
Ever since Little League and everything, I threw the ball harder than kids that were 3-4 years older than I was, and how that happened, I don't know. But I was fortunate to play shortstop, and the day I graduated from high school in 1958, half the scouts wanted me as an infielder, and the other half wanted me to put on the pitcher's toe and try pitching. I had pitched a few games. As you said, we had on my team, we had Pat Corrales, who's, by the way, still in baseball as a executive for the Dodgers. 50 years he's been in baseball. And Dick Ellsworth was our pitcher. He pitched about 12, 11 years in the major leagues with the Cubs, and he had a 20-game season also. So we had a couple other players. Yeah?
That high school team lost one game in 4 years?
Yes, that's correct.
One game in 4 years. And Chip playing shortstop.
Nobody wanted to play
lost the game.
Yeah. So anyway, when it came time, when I went one semester to City College here in Fresno, and the coach played shortstop, and then I pitched, and I think I had like 25 scoreless innings, no hit ball. And Bobby Maddox was a West Coast scout for Cincinnati, came into town, and I got signed. The night I graduated, my dad was sort of my agent. He was a businessman here in Fresno. He was a used car dealer for 40 years and did very well. And so when it came time to put the money out, 1958, 59, or 1958, there was a couple of ball clubs that were putting out about $40,000, $50,000 bonus. My dad said that I was worth more money, and I didn't sign. And I would have signed for Hershey Bar. I was ready to go play ball. So, but as it came about, I waited, and the next year I signed April Fool's Day with the Reds, and had a 3-year deal that equaled about $100,000. So worked out okay.
That was big money back then.
Sure.
Yes, sir.
Before we get into your career, which included 2 20-game win seasons, 3 no-hitters, I count the third. I want to talk to you about, I know you were a great shortstop and a great hitter. And you hit in the 1961 Cincinnati Reds. You led the team in hitting. You hit like 379 or something. And my question is, do you think, in view of the great season that Shohei Ohtani has just completed, do you think that there could be more players like that in the major leagues if the major leagues allowed players to do 2 sports? I know the Reds have got a young pitcher by the name of Hunter Green now,
yes,
who was he was a local kid. He was actually probably a better fielder, a better hitter than he was a pitcher, and he's probably one of the top pitchers in their organization. Why don't you sort of talk about that and how it affected your career?
Yeah, well, it's like you say. I don't know how far I would have gone if I would have been a position player. I always felt I was a decent hitter. I ended up hitting 7 home runs, but I wasn't really a home run hitter. I was a line drive type hitter, and I could handle the bat pretty well. And but that 61 years, you say I hit 371, but it's like 60 at bats or 70 at bats. I don't know how many bats I had, but as far as that goes, that's sort of a trivial deal. They asked who was the highest, who had the highest batting average on the 61 championship team of the Reds, and it was me. But I only had 60-some at bats, so it really didn't count, But
yes, but
that was just one of those deals. But you talk about Hunter Green. The Reds invite Lynn and myself down to spring training every year, and I saw Hunter Green when he first signed, and I saw him pitch in a couple of exhibition games, and I met his parents. In fact, I met both of his parents. They were there in Goodyear, Arizona, and he had a real good arm, and his parents were very, very nice. I think his father was in law enforcement or something of that kind, and that thing, and now he's come up, and I think he hurt his arm, and He may have had Tommy John surgery. I don't know, but I know he's in Louisville, and he's going to be the next pitcher that comes up with the Reds as a starter. And if he has the right ability, which he does, to position himself as a starter and be there for quite a while.
Yeah, I got to see Hunter play in high school because he was playing against Harvard Westlake High School, which is a local high school. He was at Notre Dame Sherman Oaks, and I was going to visit a friend of mine whose mother, Yvette Bowser, is a very close friend, who was a producer, and her son is named Drew Bowser, who's now the third baseman at Stanford. He hit 305 or something his freshman year starting, and they would always face off each other. Anytime Drew would face off Hunter, it was a big deal. So I've been watching his career. But on to your career. How many years did you spend in the minors, and when did you make your major league debut?
Well, I signed as April 1st of 1959, and the Reds sent me to Topeka, Kansas. And because I had a major league contract, I never had a minor league contract. But when you have a major league contract, at that particular time, the different leagues were classified different. They had triple A, double A, single A, and then they had B, C, D, and rookie ball. They don't have the B, C, and D leagues anymore, but they have rookie ball and single A, double A, triple A. The lowest league they could send me, I was 19 years old, and I hadn't really pitched very much, was Class B. And that's a pretty fast league. You could have about 4 or 5 veteran players, the guys that have played in the minor leagues for 4 or 5 years, that had the experience. So it was really a learning experience for me to break in Topeka and try to do well. And it took me a while to get my feet on the ground. And Johnny Vandermeer, double no hit Johnny Vandermeer, was my manager. And
how ironic!
So I finished that year. I won 6 and I lost 7, I believe. And the next year they sent me to Nashville, which was double A in the Southern Association. And at that particular time, they had segregation, and they were trying to integrate baseball in the minor leagues with black players. And that was the first year that every team in the Southern Association had to have 2 black players on the team. And that was quite an experience. Being from California, I never saw what segregation was all about. And when I signed in '59 and flew to Tampa, Florida, and checked into the hotel there, I wanted to look up Frank Robinson and talk to him because I read about him in sports magazines and what have you. And I could never figure out why I could never see him in a hotel. And then when we got at the ballpark, they told me that all the black players stay on West Tampa. They had a rundown motel or something, and they weren't allowed to stay in the same hotel the white guys would stay. So that was wild, I mean, I'd never seen that before, and never been used to it. But I went to Nashville and I took off. I won 14 games there in a half a year, and they called me up to the Reds in the middle of July, I believe it was, and made my debut in the L.A. Coliseum against Don Drysdale.
Wow!
And I got beat 2-0. I pitched 7 innings. I did pretty good, but I got beat. Drysdale shut us out.
How ironic, because in 1963, the 3 top strikeout pitchers in the National League were Sandy Koufax #1, Jim Maloney '2, and Don Drysdale #3.
Yeah, that's on a card on a baseball card. But on '63, I think I had 265 strikeouts, and
250.
Koufax, I think he pushed over 300. I'm not sure. Yeah.
Let me ask you a question, Jim. When you talked about coming from Nashville, AAA, into the majors, we had Doug Flynn on our show, Doug the Glue Flynn, and I asked him the big difference between AAA and the pros, and he said they make fewer mistakes. What do you think was the big difference between AAA and the majors when you got there, for you?
Well, it took me a while. They rushed me because they had some money in me. And, I got to the big leagues probably a year and a half probably before I should have, to be honest with you. And when I look back and I see how the difference was I jumped from double-A ball to the big leagues.
Wow.
And, basically what it all amounts to is, you have the pitchers have a little more control. They don't throw any harder than they do in the minor. Some pitchers don't, this, that. But there's some pitchers have, major league stuff, and you can see the ones that win a lot of games have lower run average and et cetera. But I think for me, what I see in guys that when they pitch, I played with players that came out of AAA that went up to the big leagues, and they never could make it. And what it amounts to is making an adjustment, and you adjust to that next level, whatever it is, and you make it, and you know what it is. So there's more pressure when you play at the major league level than being a minor league level, for sure. When you have a bad day at the office, everybody in the United States, around the world, that follows baseball, knows about it. Through the media and stuff. In those days, they didn't have all the cable TV and all the media that they have today. But with the social network and everything, it's really way out there. But I found out that I can get major league hitters out. Once I did, I made the adjustment of what I needed to do to pitch to win, and I was fortunate to have a decent career.
Well, you were one of the first guys to bring it up to home plate 100 miles an hour, and that has been verified by a lot of studies that you were a fireballer for sure. But how important was movement to your pitches and mixing in a curveball or a slider? What was your repertoire, would you say?
I had a fastball and a curve. I threw a real good curve, like Sandy Koufax. If you ever saw Koufax throw with his curveball, Nolan Ryan, it was a straight 12-6, and I probably threw it in the high 80s. So it's got a quick break, and then I threw a curveball that was 10 miles slower than that, sort of like you might call it change curve. And my fastball, I always threw across the seams. I didn't want my balls going straight, and I had good movement on it. I had, if I threw it above the waist, it would get a little hop, jumping away to a left-hand hitter and up and in on a right-hand hitter. And if I threw the ball down below the belt, I got a nice sink, hard sink. And that was really a great pitch. But when I pitched and I had my stuff, guys hit pop-ups, a lot of pop-ups, because my ball had a little hop on it, and they would undercut it and pop it up. But when you got on first base, you had to pitch for a double play, and so I try to keep my ball down, make the guy hit the ball on the ground. You have a chance to throw one pitch and get two outs. So that's what pitching's all about. It's just
go ahead. Sorry.
Those guys can hit fastballs. It doesn't really make any difference, how fast you throw. But in my opinion, fastball is the greatest pitch there is, and it still is, if you can locate it. And my money is down and away on that strike zone, down and away. And I'd throw the ball inside, but I would throw it 6 inches inside. And they would think I'd be pitching inside. And these guys today, they like the ball inside and basically down, right-handed and left-hand hitters, so they can hit the ball out of the park, pull it.
Yeah.
And I still think, if a guy can pitch, look what Rivera did for the Yankees all those years with one pitch. He threw a cutter, and he got everybody out.
Here it is. Come hit it.
Fantastic. One pitch.
It occurs to me that you may have heard this before, but you were Nolan Ryan before Nolan Ryan.
Yeah. Well, Nolan Ryan came up, when Nolan Ryan came up with the Mets, he had a hard trouble because he was a little wild and walked guys, and I did the same thing.
Yep.
And when you cut your walks down, you got a better chance of winning. But I was fortunate if I got 2 strikes on a guy, I had the opportunity to strike anybody out that came up there. If I needed like a guy on third base with 1 out and I got 2 strikes, I got a good chance of striking that guy out.
Yeah, because in your days when you got an 0-2 count, you went after the guy for the third strike. You didn't nibble around the edges because I was with Rod Carew and Bob Gibson one day, and Rod asked Bob, he said, why the hell are these guys? I've seen more guys go from 0-2 counts to 3-2 counts ever. And Gibby said it was just because they were nibbling. They just didn't go out and get them.
You're absolutely right, Frank. I don't understand it. I want to get a guy out on 3 pitches.
Well,
Why nibble? You gotta be on the offense and charge those guys. I used to say to myself, let's see how you can hit this one. It's 0-2. Mays is hitting, or Mutual, or whatever. Let's see if you can hit this one. Bang! You throw it in there. They hit it, you hit it. But you get 2 strikes on the guy. Why waste 3 more pitches, 4 more pitches by nibbling? It doesn't do any good. You're pitching defensively, and then you end up walking the guy. It might be easier said than done, but you get 2 strikes. See, these guys, I think they don't like to be hammered out that they say, well, the guy got a hit off you, 2 strikes and no balls. Well, so what? What happens if you go 3-2 on the guy and the guy gets a hit off you? It's. I was always trying. I want to get him out in 3 pitches if I could.
Jim, let me ask you. You won 134 games in your career, which was cut short by an Achilles injury. What was the first win like? Do you remember? Well, I'm sure you remember the first win. If you remember, the first loss was to Don Drysdale, 2-0. What was your first win?
My first win, I think I pitched against the Braves, and I think I beat him like 6-3 or something like that. A couple of games. I got 0-2, I think, before I won my first game. I don't really, I think it was Atlanta, but it wasn't a real sharp game. But we scored enough runs to win the game, and that was my first major league win. It's the same thing when you got to have a lot of luck. I mean, there's luck involved in anything that. When your team doesn't score any runs for you, you got to shut them out or give up 1 run. You got to be, to win a ball game. I mean, you pitch that way. But a pitcher, I'll tell you, a pitcher really becomes a pitcher when they learn how to pitch and win when they don't have their best stuff. And it took me a while to learn that. And once I got onto that, I could trick him if I had to trick him if I was real stiff and sore, start a game. It's the same way with Bob Gibson. You don't get Bob Gibson in 2 innings, you might as well, hang it up. You're going to get
Call
pooped.
it a day.
Yeah.
But you averaged about 140 pitches a game, usually.
Yes.
Jim?
If I threw a 9-inning ball game, and that's about right, 135 to 145 pitches. That was a 9-inning ball game. And Seaver, I talked to Tom. Tom was born and raised here in Fresno also, and he told me the same thing. The guys, they strike out quite a few players, and then you have foul balls, and you walk a couple of guys, and it doesn't take much. These guys with 100 pitches, I don't know. I couldn't pitch in that kind of deal. I mean, I wouldn't win very many games because I had 100 pitches before I got to 5 innings of some games.
Yeah.
Do you think that the relievers in them days that they go too fast to relievers nowadays, or do you think the relief pitching is much stronger and that's why they do that? They pull starting pitchers too quick, in your opinion?
No, I think the relievers today, the most of them are AAA pitchers. That's what you got. You look at these games. Once the starter's out of there, and they put 5 pitchers or 6 pitchers in for the next 4 innings, and look at the runs they give up, for crying out loud. They had Tim Lipscomb. We get before I had the DirecTV, we get the Giant games here, and Tim Lipscomb, when he pitched for the Giants, they took him out, and when he pitched 95 pitches to 100 pitches in the 5th inning, when his team was winning 2-1, 3-1, and that kid should have won 20. If he could have pitched to the 7th or 8th inning, he would have won 25 ball games in 2 years in a row. As it was, he won 13 and then 14 because he got a lot of no decisions. Why pitch and you shut a team out for 5 innings? Why didn't they take you out? And you do all that work, and the relievers come in and give up runs to tie the game. it's just a workout. You don't show anything for your work.
Yeah, this podcast will air probably the last week of September or the first week of October. But I'm going to think back to a game that was played in early September with the Giants and the Dodgers. The Dodgers used 10 pitchers. They started with an opener, and they used 10 pitchers. Now, then they had 2 more games. They had to get quality starts out of Urias and Buehler, or they would have been screwed. How can you play 10 pitchers? You have to gamble that every one of them will have a good outing.
Yeah, I don't know. And San Diego's done that. That manager San Diego's done it too, where he just used the whole staff, for the whole game. One guy pitched 1 inning, whatever. But when I was, when I play, you go 7th, 8th inning, and your reliever come in. Say he comes in the 8th inning. If he goes 1, 2, 3, the manager's going to have him close the game out.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
And these managers all manage the same way today. They get a guy out there. He goes 1, 2, 3, and they throw 8 or 9 pitches. He gets 3 outs.
They go to closing.
Instead of coming back out there, they put another guy in, and the other guy comes in and gives up 2 or 3 runs.
Doesn't make any sense.
No, it's terrible.
So Jim, let's go to June 14th, 1968. You struck out 18 batters, and you lost in the 11th inning, 1-0. You had a no-hitter for 10 innings. What were your emotions in that game, and how did you feel after the game?
Well, you set goals. At least I did. Playing an all-star game, playing a World Series, 20-game season, pitch a no-hitter. Those kind of goals. And when I got to that 9th inning against the Mets, it was in Cincinnati, Crosley Field, and it was 0-0. And I hadn't given up any hits. In fact, there weren't any balls that were hit hard. I mean, I struck most of them out. But it got to the 10th inning, and Johnny Lewis come up there, and I'd struck him out 3 times, I think, or whatever before. And he hit a fastball and hit it over the center field fence in Crosley Field, and they ended up losing the game 1-0.
And that counted as a no-hitter for
a while.
30 years.
For a while they did. And then they took it away about several years later after I got out of the game. They called me from New York, writers did, and they said they changed there were a lot of no-hitters pitched 4 or 5, 6 innings where a guy got credit and game got rained out. And they took all those off the books that had given no-hitters, and my game, since it ended up, I think, a 1 or 2 hit. I forget, somebody else got a hit off me, but a 10-inning no-hitter, they took it off the books for, I'm in the Cincinnati Reds Hall of Fame. I went in 1973, and on my plaque it says 3 no-hitters, which is not right. I mean, it's 2 no-hitters.
Yes, it is. It is.
Yeah, it is.
Well, did they take Harvey Haddock's 14-inning perfect game?
Yes.
Yes. That's crazy to compare an 11-inning no-hitter and a 14-inning perfect game to a 6-inning rain-out no-hitter. That's
right.
It absolutely makes no credit.
Disgrace.
But
right.
On August 19th, the same year, 1985, you were faced with a similar situation. Why don't you tell about that?
Same thing, Frank. I sitting in the playing against Chicago and Wrigley Field. I'm sitting on the bench after 9 innings. I've given up no hits and it's 0-0, and I'm saying to myself, this is a tough league. I mean, this is a tough league, babe. And I was thinking, man, if somebody gets a run off me here, and I'm pitching, we're a visiting team, and I said I might be the only pitcher in history ever pitch extra inning no hitters and get beat in 2 games.
Wow!
But I was on the on deck circle and top of the 10th inning. And our shortstop, Leo Cardenas, he hits a ball and it curves and hits the foul pole down the left field line for a home run. And he went around in the 10th inning. I came back out there and I walked. that game, if you look at the stats, that was a wild game for me. I mean, I think I walked 10 or 11 guys. I hit 2 guys. I was 3 and 2. I threw 187 pitches.
Whoa!
And but anyways, as it turned out, I walked the guy to ninth, and then Billy Williams hit a fly ball to left field, was caught, and Ernie Banks came up, and I tried to pitch for a double play. It went down and away, and he hit over it and grounded right. Taylor made double play to Cardenas, to Pete Rose, and Marty Keel had come in for defense, and it went to him. So I ended up within 2 months. I won one 10-inning no-hitter and lost one 10-inning no-hitter. Then in 1969, I had a breeze, 10-0 no-hitter. That was a laugher.
13 strikeouts, and your catcher that game was who?
Johnny Bench.
And that was the first no-hitter and only no-hitter he caught, I believe.
That's correct. You're right, Frank.
He was just a kid then, right? 20?
Yeah, he was like 20 years old. That's correct. And it wasn't the only no-hitter he did pitch, but Tom Seaver pitched a no-hitter for Cincinnati, but Bench did not catch that day. And I don't know what the reason was, but, he didn't catch. So he's got one no-hitter, and it happened to be mine.
He's talking about Johnny. Was there a game, or was there an incident, or what happened in one game when he came out to the mound to have conversation? Do I recall a story correctly? Did you throw him off the mound?
He what?
Did you throw him off the mound? Did you tell him to take a walk?
No, that's fake. That's fake news.
Oh, okay.
But you threw 187 pitches that game. 187 pitches.
Yeah, well, then you got 50 warming up before the game, and then you got 8 pitches between innings. That's another 80. I actually threw over 300 pitches.
Yeah, so in this area of pitch counts, and Johnny Bench and I have talked about this. How many pitches do you need to get warm between innings? Do you need all 8? Could they reduce that to 6? And then could you maybe pitch another inning?
Yeah, I would try to use 8 innings unless it was real hot or something. But I always tell pitchers that when they start an inning, whether it's coming in from the bullpen, but I always threw about the first 4 pitches or 5 pitches, about 3/4 speed, and then my last 3 pitches, I threw them a fastball and a curve like there was a hitter up there, because I wanted to get that first batter out, and I didn't want to come up there and get behind and walk or that kind of deal. So you have to prepare yourself to be ready for that first hitter and get ahead of him and try to get him out. First hitter out is a big out for any team.
Jim, you were one of the greats of the 60s, and you pitched against some of the greatest of all time. So why don't I give you a couple of names and you tell us how you fared against them and what you recall about them. And I'll start with Billy's favorite player, Willie Mays.
Willie Mays his whole career, I pitched against him for 10 years. He didn't hit 200 off me.
Wow.
No. And, I pitched against, you figure in those days, we went out to San Francisco 3 times. San Francisco come to Cincinnati 3 times. It wasn't all split up like the leagues in the Central Division, Eastern Division, and Western Division deal like that. Cincinnati only goes to Cincinnati, or San Francisco only goes to Cincinnati one time. But in those times we went 3 times, and but he didn't get the hits off me. I did, but I'll tell you what, the best baseball player I saw in my career for all around was Willie Mays. That guy was the best player I saw by far. Run, hit, steal, but he didn't do off me. Clemente, he didn't like to hit off me. But I can't say the same thing for Willie Stargell and Willie McCovey.
Is that because they were lefties, Jim? Did that make the difference? The lefty-righty thing?
It really didn't make any difference to me. It's just that those guys were power hitters. Willie McCovey, when he first came up, I used to go up the ladder with him with fastballs and he'd swing at them. You know, like these guys today, they chase balls up in the zone. And as soon as McCovey learned the strike zone and laid off that pitch, he was a tough out for me. And I didn't throw slider, and a lot of guys had good success with him with a slider, but I did not throw slider. So that might have been a deal. But and same thing with Stargell. Those guys were good hitters. I mean, they had power and they were good ball players. And another guy had, believe it or not, was Dennis Minke, who was about a 250 hitter, I guess, or 40. And somehow the guy got lots of hits off me. I don't know. I'd throw my glove out there and the guy'd get a hit.
Dennis Menke, that's funny. You mentioned Willie McCovey and you going up the ladder on him. I know, as you know, I represent Rod Carew, and early in his career, when he would face Nolan Ryan used to get him out like crazy, and that's why Rod developed that crouch that he had, because he wanted to make Nolan Ryan bring the ball down. And once he did that, he evened the count on Nolan. But that was a very telling thing that Rod did, just because Nolan Ryan could overpower him with a rising fastball, as you could overpower McCovey with a rising fastball.
Right. Right. That's so true.
Yeah. So let me ask you about a fellow that I thought is maybe one of the most underestimated hitters of our time, probably only because Ted Williams sort of outmarketed him, but Stan Musial. Did you play against Stan?
Who?
Stan Musial.
Yeah, I was the last pitcher to pitch against Stan Musial the day he retired, and he was my idol. He was my idol growing up in Fresno. I wanted to hit like him. I was a left-hand hitter and wore number 6, and followed his whole career, had all kinds of articles when I was a kid, 10, 11 years old, playing Little League Baseball, and following his career and everything. And by golly, if I didn't end up on the last day in 1963, I was pitching. I was going for my 24th win, and I was pitching against Bob Gibson.
Wow.
And Musial, and it was Musial's last day. And the first time up, I struck him out, and then the next 2 times up, he got ground ball base hits to the right. Rose was playing second base, and he got one up between first and second. Then he hit one up the middle, and they took him out in the 6th inning. And so that was a big thrill for me. All the writers are going to say, "Hey, are you going to let him hit one, or so he can go out?" And I told him, I said, "Hey, we're out here to win this ball game." I said, "I'm not going to give him anything." And at 23 years old, Frank, I can tell you that I was pretty tough to hit at that age. I mean, and Musial was 40 some years old, and he went out and he got 2 for 3 off me. And that guy was a great ball player. He was also a great pitcher. Yeah.
Really, Stan the Man was a pitcher? I didn't know that.
Yep. He was another one of those guys that could have gone either way.
Really?
And the decision was to make him a hitter, and he got some like 3,500 hits or something.
I got to ask you a question, Jim, because it's driving me crazy. You talk about Gibson, and you're obviously a highly competitive guy. You can't have 30 shutouts, 3 no-hitters, and 5 one-hitters unless you're pretty damn competitive. But did you ever throw at a guy's head? When you were, because you're an affable guy, you don't strike.
Yeah, no, that's not really the right thing to do. As hard as I threw, and when I first started, guys never even wore helmets. They wore a little leather thing in their hat that went around the edge, and I think helmets came in about like 1964 or 5, somewhere like that. And but I've thrown at guys. I mean, Roy Seaver hit a grand slammer off me in Connie Mack Stadium, and the next year in spring training in Clearwater, Florida, with the Phillies. I was pretty cocky, and in those days. And I said, "Well, I'll just let him know I'm out there," and I hit him in the ribs and broke 2 ribs.
Whoa!
He missed he missed the first 2 months of the season. And then 2 months later, or 2 years later, 1965, who does the Cincinnati Reds hire as the coach? Roy Seaver. So I told him I was sorry.
I'd like to ask the same question of Bob Gibson if he ever threw in somebody's head. I better get a different answer.
That Gibson, you better not look at him. These guys, the way they throw that bat up in the air and they look at the ball, they wouldn't survive. They wouldn't survive. Drysdale, those guys, Bob Veal, they wouldn't, showing the pitcher up like that. It's a whole different game today. It's like the way these guys fraternize and kiss each other while the game's going on and everything. It's like a Sunday beer league to me, really.
There were some hell of a pitchers, boy. You were pitching in some hell of a company there between Marichal and Drysdale and Koufax and Gibson. Well, and you were right there with them. You were right there with them. So that's some company.
Yeah. And you pitched in the World Series in 1961?
Yeah, I did. But Joey J started the last game. We were down 3-1, and they got 6 or 7 runs off of him. And then they put me in. So when they put me in, I was nervous as all get out. I mean, I really was. But that's still no excuse. But I think Hector, I forget what the guy's name was. Torres was.
Hector Lopez?
Hector Torres. I think he had one off the end of the bat, went over the first baseman's head, and Cleet Boyer hit the scoreboard with a line drive. And I gave up a couple of runs. The only guy I got out was Bobby Richardson, I think. And I was. But I can say I pitched in the World Series. I was the youngest player to pitch in the World Series that year.
And you would have pitched in many more had you been with the Reds. Again, had the Achilles injury not shortened your career for sure, because you never won another game after you tore your Achilles. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, that was 1970. My heel had been bothering me a year before. And Bob Housen, who was our general manager, they called me in, and I was complaining about my heel. The back part of my heel was sore when my shoe went around the back part of my heel, and I couldn't run. I mean, it was bothering me to run and pitch. I was landing my left leg. And Bob Housen got a hold of me, and they did some x-rays and stuff, and they couldn't find anything. There was no orthopedic surgeon. They didn't even send me they had the team doctor was a surgeon, and so they said that there was nothing wrong. And Bob Housen told me that since he had come over from the Cardinals, he was a Cardinal GM, and he told me, he says, "You're going to have to learn how to pitch with pain. You have no pain tolerance." That's what he told me.
Wow.
And I was about ready to jump up out of my chair and drop him.
Yeah.
But so that's how they treated players in those days, and it really bothered me for a long time. So I ended up putting a lift in my heel, a cushion that would stick my heel out of the back part of my shoe. And in those days we had those tight-fitting kangaroo leather type shoes, nothing like the shoes they have today, where they're like slippers. These guys, the Nikes and all that stuff, and so I ended up pitching the end of the year of '69. And pitching and I didn't say anything. I'd take 2 or 3 aspirin to start the game, and it helped me out. And so I figured I could get over it during the winter. So that winter, I rested it up, and then I went back to Tampa in '70, and or '70, 70. That was in '69. So '70, start the '70 season. I was running in the outfield, and sure enough, my heel started bothering me again. So I just didn't say anything, and I pitched the second game of the season against the Dodgers. Came up to hit, and they hit a ball up the middle, and took one step out of the batter's box, and my Achilles tendon in the back of my head, I could hear it pop.
Wow.
And I thought the bat had come back around and hit me on the back of the heel. Tom Haller was catching. He heard it pop, and so did the umpire. He heard it pop. And that was it for me in my career. I was out a whole year, and they ended up trading me to the LA Angels that winter, and I was 0-3 with them, and that was it. Retired, came back to Fresno. So,
And
I would have loved to have pitched for the Big Red Machine when they got Joe Morgan, and what a team they had there for 5 or 6 years.
well, they did for
They
sure.
did.
They did for
Yeah.
sure. But they thought so highly of you, and you were such a great pitcher that in 1973 they inducted you into the Reds Hall of Fame. They didn't waste any time. They just said, "Oh my God, Jim's done. We've got to recognize him as a Hall of Famer."
Yeah. They just had Lynn and I just got back from Cincinnati. We were over there for the Hall of Fame, and they have a dinner every other year. It's a gala affair, and because of the COVID thing, they haven't had it for 2 years because of COVID, and so they had it this year. And Marty Brenneman, the radio announcer for 46 years for the Reds, they put him in the Reds Hall of Fame, and so we went back, and we saw a lot of guys. Guys that I played with. The only guys I played with really was Tommy Helms and Wayne Granger. He was a reliever, and myself. Helms and I were the oldest guys there. And we were still kicking.
Was Pete not there?
But saw Bench and Tony Perez and Cesar Geronimo and all those guys that played in that the Big Red Machine deal, and they had quite a ball club. But it's a lot of fun to go, and there's a lot of lies. You know how it goes, Frank.
Let me ask you, who influenced you the most in your career? If you had to, your dad was your agent. Would you say it was a coach in high school or college, or was it one of the pro coaches or managers?
Or a teammate?
Or a teammate? Who had the most influence on you and made you improve the most?
I think, I don't know, ever since I was a kid, I wanted to play baseball. Now, I played all sports. I played football, basketball, and baseball. When I went to Cal for one semester, I went out for the Frost basketball team, and I didn't even have a scholarship. I had a scholarship to play baseball, and I made the Frost basketball team and at Cal. And Newell was a varsity coach, and we had a guy named Rene Herrerius, I believe he was our coach. And I was about the sixth player on that team, and then I came back and went at the semester, but I was pretty much an all-around athlete. But my dad, he worked with me as a kid and everything, a young kid, and when I started. But when I got into professional baseball, I think that the guy that really helped me the most was the pitching coach we had in Nashville was Jim Turner, Milkman Jim Turner. He played for the Yankees, pitched for the Yankees years ago, and then he became the Reds pitching coach. So we played together. He was on my coach for the first 5 years with Fred Hutchison was our manager. But I think that he taught me, what I needed to do, and basically I did most of my stuff, myself. I worked hard at it, just like any profession. You want to go all out. You can, you hope you succeed and do the best you can. And I did that. I mean, it was a lot of work involved and a lot of ups and downs. And, you just sort of, I was tickled to death to play professional baseball and to make it to the major leagues and to play against the players and play with some players, Frank Robinson and Beta Pinson, Gus Bell, and those guys was a real honor. I mean, there was some real great ball players in the 60s.
So it was blood, sweat, and tears. Blood, sweat, and tears, and discipline.
Could Fred Hutchison manage today?
Absolutely.
Today's players?
Well, he would, as soon as he'd choose somebody out, they might go, take a timeout, and go in the corner and sulk about it. But Fred Hutchison was a guy that he could chew you out. And I'll tell you what made him good was whatever he said, if he said it to the team or he said it to certain individuals in a team meeting, which he had a few, but not a lot, and he could really get on you. As soon as the talk was over with, you had a clean slate. He never had a resentment against anybody. Never held, a resentment on somebody's personality they didn't get along with. And that was a good thing about him, because a lot of guys, they right away they have a personality complex and with a guy, and they lean against the guy. Anytime they can shove him, get him somewhere else, or they do. But not Fred Hutchinson, boy. Once you got chewed out, it was nothing. He talked to you 5 minutes later. It was like nothing happened.
I gotta ask you, Jim, as I've had a pretty eclectic life, nothing along like yours, but I've been a friend of Bill W. now for about 13 years. My life has changed a lot because of Bill W. and AA, and yeah, he really changed my life, of course, for the better. And it's one day at a time. I'll always have that affliction, and it's always the constant battle, that one day at a time. And I know you went through a similar situation. I'd like you to tell us about it if you could.
Yeah, you in recovery yourself, are you?
Yes. I've been in recovery for 13 years now.
Yeah, I've been 36 years. Congratulations.
Well, thank you very much, and congratulations to you as well, sir.
Absolutely, it was the best move that I ever made in my life.
I'm prouder of that than anything I've ever done.
What's that?
I'm prouder of that than anything I've ever done, my sobriety.
Absolutely, me too. I can honestly say that. I got introduced to AA through a treatment program that I went to in Wickenburg, Arizona, a place called the Meadows, and I was 42 days in there. February the 5th of 1985 is the last day I've had a drink, and I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, but that's. I still go to meetings. During the COVID thing, it was tough. We had some Zoom class deals and stuff, but I'm back going to meetings, and it's about one alcoholic helping another alcoholic, and working those 12 steps. There's 12 steps of this whole world should have the 12-step program. We'd be in a wonderful position.
I couldn't agree more with you, Jim, and I take my hat off to you. Because,
thank you. Me too.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm super proud of that. Again, it's a constant battle. It's one day at a time. It's just like you going one pitch at a time. You don't get 30 shutouts by thinking about the next pitch. I'm sure you get 30 shutouts by thinking about the pitch you're throwing then.
Hey,
that's
Jim,
right.
Can I ask you a question? Is that Lynn on the phone?
Yeah, she's in the background.
Yeah, we can all hear it.
That's all right.
We can all hear it.
Honey, can you please get off the phone or shut the door so we can hear you? Okay, she's off.
I saw you in an interview when you talked about Johnny Vandermeer with the 2 no-hitters back-to-back, and you made a great point. You said, that's one record that'll never be broken, because who the hell is going to throw 3 no-hitters back-to-back? That ain't never going to happen.
No, absolutely not. You have to throw 2 to tie it.
That's one record. He's dead right. That'll never be broken.
And I guess on April 30th, 1969, when you threw your no-hitter, Don Wilson threw a no-hitter the next day for the Houston Astros. Is that correct?
That's right. I think it's only happened in one other game in the history of baseball. I think Ray Sadecki, the Giant deal. There was a no-hitter one day, Ray Sadecki or something, and then somebody threw one the next day. Rick Wise or somebody. I can't remember. But I threw that no-hitter, man. I was happy about the thing, and then I'll be darned the next night if Don Wilson throws one against us.
Oh, he threw it against you guys.
Yeah.
Wow.
Against us.
Wow. So much for taking over the spotlight.
No, I lost it real fast.
Oh.
Why'd you tell me about Johnny Bench?
Johnny Bench, when he first came up, he was cocky, and you know him, Frank. I mean, you know how he is, and he's tamed down a little bit, but he came up, and he was just a cocky kid, and everybody knew the way he walked with the uniform on. The guy was he was headed for stardom. The way he could catch, the way he could throw, the way his defense, 19 years old, 20 years old, was fantastic, and he was durable, and he hit for power, and he hit for average, and that's the way the guy played. And when he came up at 20 years old, he was sort of, would take over things. And when I came up when I was 20 years old, they told me to shut up and listen and take direction. It was like rushing a fraternity, pledge, and that's what I did. We had guys that would tell you what to do. Hey, go do this, go pick this up for me, or, make sure my bag gets in the room, and all this stuff. And that's what you did. I never said anything for 2 or 3 years. And finally, when I, got on the club and I was established, I start to speak my piece. And but Bench was speaking it right up from the start. And there was a story, you probably heard it, Frank, about Bench. Toward the end of my career, I was fooling around with what I was using was KY jelly. You know what KY jelly is?
Yeah, we do. We do.
Yeah, okay.
We actually talked about Ron Jeremy beforehand, but
yeah, right. Anyway, I had this KY jelly, and I was working on this. It's a spitter, like a spitter, and I put the stuff on the back of my neck, and in spring training I was working on it, and I had a good one because I was throwing the ball hard, and it would go to the plate and explode, and it would go down and the other way, or straight down. And if you didn't have a sign, the catcher, it's like putting a sign down for a fastball. If you think a curve's coming, you're going to have a problem. Well, you needed a sign for this KY jelly ball, otherwise you're not even going to get the glove on it. And so we've gone over the hitter, first or second game of the year. I was pitching, and Bench, he says, I tell him, I said, John, I got this KY jelly ball. I says, we're going to need a sign. I said, I got to let you know when I've got the ball loaded, and I'm going to throw it. And he looked at me and he says, he's only 20, 21 years old. He says, you throw it, I'll catch it. And I said, well, okay, that's the way you want to be. I didn't say that to him, but I knew he was going to have trouble. And so I went out and started the game, Pittsburgh or somewhere, and I got 2 quick outs. And so then a guy comes up. I don't want to throw it with a guy on base because he's not going to catch it. So anyway, I got 2 quick outs, and the guy comes up to hit. So I loaded it up. I don't tell him. He calls for a fastball, and I got it, and I throw it. And he has his glove out there, and it goes down, and boom, down the way. He never even got it. He never touched it. It hit him on the toe, on his shoe. And bang, and he went down and let out a ooh like that or something. So then I got the guy out, and I came back to the bench. I figured he's going to come over and say, hey, let's. But he never said anything. So I said, okay, same thing the next inning. Got 2 quick guys out, and I load one up. He calls for a fastball. He does not know it's coming. I throw it, and I let it go a little bit high, and he raises up with his glove, and then the ball starts to explode, and he doesn't even get a glove on it, and it comes straight down and hits him in the cup and breaks his cup in half.
whoa!
Yeah. So he's down on all fours across the field. He's making the ooh, all those noises. Ooh. So they turn him over on his back, and the trainers lifted. You know how when you get the wind knocked out of you lift your pants up. Where the belt is. He's doing that on him, and there's 25,000 people in the stands looking like, what happened to this guy? What happened to Bench? He's laying there. So anyway, I walk up there, and he's, and finally he stands up, and he's hurting. I know he's hurting. And so I get a ball, and I walk back to the mound, and I turn around, and there's Bench. He's right in front of my face, and he's got his glove up on his head. I mean, he's got his mask up on his helmet, and he leans over and he says, I think I need a sign for that.
That's a great story.
It's a great story.
That's a great story.
Speaking of cocky, in a dictionary under cocky, it says see Pete Rose.
Yeah.
You got a Pete story for us?
Pete, he was a great hitter, great baseball player with limited ability as far as his arm and his running and what position he could play. He never was a second baseman. He never could get the double play right. He just couldn't coordinate it right. But boy, could he hit! And he's a fun guy to be around. I don't know if you've ever been around him, Frank, but he likes to laugh. He's you tell him a joke, and he's always joking around, and that kind of thing. And he one day we're playing in Candlestick Park, and Gaylord Perry is pitching, and
a known juicer himself, KY Jelly himself.
Yeah, no, he was on Vaseline. He was Vaseline. And anyway, he goes up to hit, and Perry throw it almost every pitch, but it was just a little tumbler. It just go down, and you hit over the ball, and you hit ground balls. And Pete went up there and he hit a 3-hopper to second baseman, and he comes back to the dugout at Candlestick Park, and you just walk in. It was open in the dugout there. There was no fence in front. And he's standing up out in front of the dugout, yelling at Al Barlick, the umpire. He's telling him, check the ball, check the ball, check the ball. He's throwing that spitter, grease ball it was called. And see, they got Rose out, and that's what he'd do. Somebody got him out. He started yelling at the pitcher, and do this, and he's yelling like crazy. So Bristol comes over to me, and he says, "You got your KY jelly?" I said, "Yeah, I got it." So he says, "Well, put it on and start throwing more KY." I'd only throw it 6 or 7 times a game, just when I need it. I got a guy on third base with 1 out, and I got 2 strikes. I throw the KY jelly ball because he's not going to hit it. Anyway, Rose is yelling, and so Barlick is looking over at the dugout. So anyway, Bristol says, "Start throwing your KY jelly ball." I said, "Hey, okay." So anyway, I told Bench, and by this time, we have a sign for it. So anyway, the first one I throw, right, all of a sudden their dugout starts yelling, "What was that pitch?" Because you could see from the side the ball just explode up there. And he said, "What was that pitch? What was that pitch?" And I looked at Rose at second base, and he's laughing. He's laughing. He hears him yelling over there. So anyway, I keep on throwing that pitch, and they're yelling, "Check the ball, check the ball. What was that pitch? What was that pitch?" About that time, Barlick rips his mask off. The veins are sticking out of his neck. And he walks halfway over there to the giant dugout, and he looks at him and he says, "What was that pitch?" He yells. "I don't know what that pitch was," he says, "but whatever it was the best one I've ever seen. Shut up over here."
That's great.
But anyway, Rose was laughing like crazy. He thought that was a good deal. So anyway, Rose, I'm glad he was my teammate.
Yeah.
He's probably Pete's worst enemy, but the stuff he's gone through. But it's, like yourself, an addiction is an addiction, and he's got the gambling deal.
Well,
so.
Billy's got that too.
Oh, I got that too. I got them all, Jim.
Yeah,
I signed up for all of them.
The thing about it is, we don't know what mediocrity is. We don't know where that line is.
Exactly.
Yes, but to Billy's best interest, Billy is also a New York City firefighter for 20 years and a first responder at 9/11 and a Vietnam veteran. So he made the most of it. And at 58, he went back to college. And at 62, graduated from the University of Florida with a journalism degree. And I give him all the credit in the world for that, as I give you all the credit in the world for overcoming your addiction as well.
Absolutely. Congratulations, you bet.
Thank you, Jim. We both owe a lot to Bill W., no doubt about it. It's a wonderful organization.
So do you have
yes, it is.
Do you have any questions, Derek?
Yeah, I got a question. Willie Mays. Willie Mays, you says, was the best player that you ever saw play the game. Who compares to him in the current game today?
I don't know. You look at some of these players that they just can't do. You watch that Mays in the outfield, how he basket catch those balls, jump up against the fence. In those days they didn't have big pads on all the walls that they had cement walls out there. and wooden walls, and the way the guy could hit, the way the guy could take an extra base, and just look at easy. I couldn't say anybody today playing in today's couldn't even come close to what I saw as a player, Willie Mays, when I pitched against him for 10 years. That guy was something else.
Wow.
That makes me very happy.
Was
Great.
Do you think that Ken Griffey Jr. and that was 25 years ago, but Ken Griffey would be not comparable, but would be a slight step below Willie, the way he played?
Yeah, Junior. Junior hit all those home runs. You put Willie Mays in Wrigley Field, he's liable to hit 800 home runs.
That's true.
That's true.
At Candlestick, he had to learn to hit the ball to right center because you start a game at 2:00 during the afternoon, which they play most of the day games. That was a blast going across the diamond there, going out to right field. And the first couple of years, they didn't even move the fences in there, and you couldn't hit that ball out in left field with that wind with a bazooka gun. You couldn't shoot it out there. I mean, and he learned to hit the right center, and he hit a lot of home runs that way. I mean, I even hit a home run out of Candlestick Park. That ball get up that jet stream going to right field, but. I hit mine off of Sad Sam Jones. He used to pitch with a toothpick.
Yep.
Yeah. And he was at the end of his career. And when I hit the home run off of him, they released him the next day. So
Coincidence.
Do you recall the other 6 pitchers you hit your home runs off
What's
of?
that?
Do you recall the names of the other 6 pitchers you hit your home runs off of?
No. Well, yeah. Pat Jarvis with the Braves is one. Bill Hands with the Cubs. I hit one in Wrigley Field. When the wind was blowing out, same deal. I hit it out to left center, which was only really the short part of that ballpark, because I think it's 368 in the power alleys on both sides. But you talk about a ballpark, the wind blowing out, man. And now today, all these ballparks, that ball flies. Great America Ballpark there in Cincinnati. I mean, it's unbelievable. Guys make half swings, and right-handed hitters, they hit them out as far right field as anything. I mean, in my day, even some of those ballparks were small, but I don't know. You didn't see too many right-handed hitters hitting balls out. Frank Robinson could do it. There was a few guys, but mostly hit the ball, pull the ball left center or center field, But
I was in Cooperstown one year with Rod, and I ran into Ralph Branca. And we had a conversation. The conversation got around to home runs, and he said, "What the hell do you expect? They're hitting goddamn Titleists."
Yeah,
he said
that's right.
The balls were wound so tight,
Wow.
Yeah,
that's a great point.
1 year they tried to put those baseballs in a freezer or something and try to dead them. I don't know how that worked, but they're always messing around with those balls, bats. These hitters got all kinds of armor on them when they go up to hit. They got a pad on their elbow, and I remember Frank Robinson used to stand on the plate. He'd get hit a lot. He never had any pads on him. If the ball's coming at your elbow, you don't stick your elbow out there and hit it because you got a pad on it. You raise your elbow, your hands up over your head, so the ball goes inside between your chest and the plate, and you don't get hit.
Yep.
So
we all grew up in New York, so we were used to Ron Hunt getting hit a lot, leading the league and getting hit by pitches. Ron Hunt, yeah, that was another guy. I got wind that he used to stand right on the plate, and I'd throw a ball inside, and he took my best fastball right in the rib cage and dropped straight down. He ran on to first base. Somebody told me later that the guy had a flak jacket on. So anyway, I waited till next year in spring training. I don't know, St. Petersburg or somewhere. And he came up the plate, and I drilled him right in the shin, hit him in the shin, put him out for a month. He didn't wear shin guards. Now he would be wearing shin guards.
Right. You can't get anything on that shin. You know,
Like you said, it's a tough league. It was a tough league, Jim. Tough league.
Vaseline
it is a
balls,
tough league.
KY
That's a
jelly,
tough league.
flak jackets, tough league.
Yeah.
Tough league.
Yes, it is.
I have a couple questions, but you mentioned something earlier in the interview. Can you hear us?
Can you hear us, Jim?
Yes.
Okay. You mentioned something earlier in the interview about being very nervous, and I think it was for the World Series. I'm off camera, so you can't see me.
Right.
So there is, in a pitcher's face, especially in the big games, there is like turmoil. It seems like they're just going through a tremendous amount of stress and nervousness. Is that true? And what does it feel like to be under that sort of pressure?
Well, when you start a game, if you don't have that, if you don't feel like that stress, or or you worked up to, you're going to compete against the top players, the top level baseball, Major League Baseball, and if you don't have anything worked up in your system, I can't believe that you're going to do very well in that league. And once you get a couple guys out, even the first out, you sort of learn to settle down and to get into the swing of the game. But there's a lot of things to do to find out immediately about the slope of the mound that you're pitching on, because the mound that you warmed up on, they make sure that it's not the same slant off the front of the deal. So when you go first 3-4 pitches, you have to get acclimated to that slant, and so you're ready to throw strikes. But you get butterflies. I mean, if you don't, something wrong with you.
Right.
And you don't realize, unless you've stood on a major league mound, how much more elevated it is than it looks on TV.
Right. Well, Dodger Stadium I used to love that, because they had that was before they made everything like, I was 15 inches above, or 12 inches above 68. They moved it. But you go to Dodger Stadium, man, they had that mound for Koufax and Drysdale and those guys, big right-handers, and Koufax threw hard. I love that. It was like stepping off of Mount Everest. Boy, you could come in there with that fastball. And you see if you can hit this one, boys.
Yeah. Wow.
And then it's another question regarding pressure as a pitcher, and compared to the average everyday person. So that type of pressure people don't get to feel on a regular basis in real life. I mean, I guess that's sort of subjective, but have you ever experienced anything that is comparable like that in your life to being on the spot in a major game and having that nervousness and pressure?
Well, I can tell you probably the most, when the fear of the unknown, you can get yourself worked up over that feeling of being fear, have the fear. And I can remember, and maybe Billy can resolve, I remember when I called, talked to Don Newcomb. Don Newcomb called. I got on the phone with him, and that's how I got to the Meadows. He was working with, he had sent Bob Welsh to the Meadows, and I could identify that. And I remember when I got a plane and went over there, there was a lot of fear, and I had some real serious feelings about what was going to happen, and once I got over there, it took a long time to figure out, exactly what I needed to do, and to learn about what's going to happen if, learn about alcoholism, the disease, the concept of the disease of alcoholism. And I feel real fortunate that I was been able to go through a 42-day program. You probably, in that 42 days, I learned probably as much as going to AA meetings 5 times a week or 6 times a week for maybe 6 months. And I learned it in 42 days. So, that was a blessing. But I had some real fearful feelings going over there, thinking about, how in the world did I get myself in this mess? And I thought, it's divorce thing and up in the air, what's going to happen to me in my life? And as Billy say, it's once I got out and started going to AA, And I had a sponsor. In fact, I had 3 sponsors. A couple of them passed away, and it turned my whole life around. And I'm so very grateful.
And you
my life today.
and you
It's a blessing.
and you ultimately remarried your high school sweetheart.
Yeah, she's sitting right here. She keeps an eye on me.
She's a great lady, that's for sure. Great
Yeah.
lady.
Well,
Yeah.
I definitely sympathize with you, empathize with you, I should say, about the fear. I could never figure out what I would do if I didn't drink. How would I ever laugh? How will I ever have fun? But it's the best thing I ever did in my life, and I
Right.
tip my hat to you, sir, because
Yeah. Where's all the fun going to be? I can't drink. In the meantime, for the last 5 years, my life is totally upside down.
exactly. Well, thank you
That's
so
how much
much, Jim. I can't thank you enough for everything. I mean, you're just a real affable guy and you're a great storyteller, and I'll remember that story about Johnny Bench forever.
And
That's
Yeah.
terrific.
And thank you to Doug Flynn and all the people we met in Kentucky, where we came
Right.
together for the first time, and we would love to be there. We'll have to make a trip back to Kentucky just to see Doug and Jim Richardson and Matt Mitchell and Matthew Lawrence and everybody, all of our friends back there. We should
Right.
make an impromptu trip soon.
Yeah, that was a fun time. That was really a fun time.
Yep. Thanks so much, Jim.
Thanks so much,
We
Jim.
appreciate it.
It was great, just great. You're just a great.
My pleasure. You guys take care and be safe.
We
Thank
will.
you, sir.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Just terrific. He reminds me and I couldn't help but flash the comedy when he says, you got to get that first guy out. It's like coming out and you're nervous, you're telling jokes. You want that first joke to hit, and that takes all the edge off. It's like, okay, I'm funny. They think I'm funny. If the first joke dies, then you start getting antsy,
Well, do you open with your second joke first, and then you finish with your best joke last?
Finish with your best joke and open with your second best joke. That's what I always did, because it's, it seems like a good formula. But what I got from that interview, and I'm sure you did as well, he kept comparing the new timers, the new game compared to the old game, and it's almost like these guys today, these guys today, these guys today. I was in a bar, oddly enough, in New Orleans.
What were the chances of that?
Oddly enough, at about 5:30 in the morning, I'm sitting next to this old timer, and I was like 26, 25. This guy's about 87 years old. And of course, I'm drinking. It's 5 o'clock in the morning, and I said to him, so I look at his hands, and they're all lumps.
Gnarly.
Yeah, lumps hanging this way and this way. And I said, so, what'd you do when you were working? He's like, I was a fighter. I said, no kidding, you were a fighter, huh? I says, you fight anybody I would know? You ever hear of young Stripling? I says, young Stripling? I said, wow, man, wasn't he a bare knuckle fighter? Heavyweight back in the... Yeah, he goes, in them days it was illegal. We used to fight on barges outside New Orleans.
Wow.
I says, wow, man, how many fights did you have? He said, I had about 112, 115 pro fights. He said, then they come out with the gloves, and I figured the game got soft, so I retired. Wow. I said, these are the kind of men.
That's back.
Huh?
Bare
Bare knuckle fighting is
Yeah,
back?
it's back. Yeah. Did you know that?
No.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
It's very up and coming right now. In fact, they have quite a few females fighting bare knuckle too.
Yeah, but isn't it illegal in the United States?
No. I mean, it's not bare knuckle. Like, no, they don't have. Their hands are wrapped, but their knuckles are bare. So, and it's not illegal, and they do pay-per-views.
But you got that impression when you kept talking about the pads they got. They're like, in my day we would have nailed them.
But I want to say something to the young folks out there. That man is 82 years old.
Wow.
Sharp as a tack.
Sharp.
Without a doubt.
So 60 is the new 80, or 80 is the what was it?
Let's hope so.
Wait. 80 is the new 60. 80 is the new 60.
It's true.
So 70 is the new 50. So
I'll buy that.
So I got 40 more years then.
Oh yeah, you got 40 more. Yeah. Stick to handicapping. Stick to betting football.
I'll stick to reading Combustible,
and I'll read Lamar's Gamble, and I'll meet you in the middle.
And then, okay, meet me in the middle. Well, you call that the middle? That's the middle. And then I'll read Lamar's Gamble, and you can read combustible.
And I will indeed.
And both are available on Amook, and amike.com/books.
It's a good read, folks. I'm not kidding.
And so's this. Before we go, I'd like to say again, thank Weekend Coffee and weekendcoffee.com. They make great coffees, and they saw something in us, and I hope we're delivering for them. It's been a remarkable month of September, and Jim kicks off October. I'm ahead of you on the prognosticating again, so that's a good thing. And Bronx Bookie will have more picks to come.
See, we can do something about it. All right, my brother.
Yeah, and again, weekendcoffee.com. Terrific coffee delivered straight to your door.
Pour it forward.
Forward, indeed. Goodbye, folks. Goodbye, Derek.
Goodbye, Derek.
Say
Thanks
goodbye,
for everything,
Derek.
brother.
Say goodbye, Derek.
Adios, amigos.
Oh,
Look at that, he's
adios,
bilingual.
amigos.
Bilingual.
Oh.
Next week's guest, Cincinnati Reds Hall of Fame pitcher and two-time 20-game
I
winner,
was bisexual.
Jim Maloney.
I've been sex all my life.
Goodbye, folks.
Goodbye, folks.
Next week's guest, 5-time Emmy nominee, co-star of shows Murphy Brown, Hope and Faith, actress Faith Ford.
We'll see you next week.